Thank you for joining the Reverend Dr. Sean Michael Greener, radio host, national pastor, author, and speaker for Sundays with Dr. Sean. Hold on tight. Here comes the truth.
Hey everybody. I'm just glad to be here today. I'm glad to be with you. I hope that everybody's doing well in the midst of all this crazy business. You know, this is what it is. You just can't let it freak you out. You can't let it freak you out. You can't let it eat you up. You can't let it chew you up. You can't let it spit you out. You have to remember that at the end of the book, good wins. God wins. Good wins and God wins. At the end of the book, God reassumes control and all is well for those who have faith in Him. I want to read to you something that I sent out, and it's funny how things happen. It's just so ironic, because I was going to do a post this afternoon. My dear friend, Deborah Garrow, who I know, her and her husband, Richard, fantastic, wonderful people, my goodness. Very Sophia Loren lady, and Richard is quiet, but when he opens his mouth, you really want to pay attention. He's a guy who has a lot of good and worth to say. And it's funny, I'm working on finishing up the last course for another doctorate that I did, that I'm doing. And this one's really, really hard. And it talks a lot about argument and apologetics and things like that. But it's a doctorate in practical theology, and I'm at the very end. And so in this course, you know, there's a lot of discourse. The Apostle Shaul, or Paul, his name really wasn't Paul, it was Shaul. I just made up Paul, just like Jesus. Jesus' real name wasn't Jesus, it was Yeshua. But whatever, you know, whatever floats your boat. So my friend Deborah Garrow from down in Florida posted a poem today that is literally one of my favorite poems. My favorite poem is Desiderata, but a very close second is this poem that I'm going to read to you. It's very short. And I thought today might be a good day to share that with you. And I was going to do that, and Deborah posted this poem, and I was like, I got to do a live. I'll just do a live and do it that way and give you some encouraging words. If you like it, share it. If it blesses your heart, share it. It's not a poem that I wrote. It's very old. By the way, I did write this book, The Bible Summary for Real People, and I wrote this book, Excellence Killed the Church, How Mediocrity is Destroying America. They're both available on Amazon. Feel free to give them a look. A lot of people have asked me, real quick, what happened to Netflix? Where did Netflix go? And I want to explain that. I put a pause on that for a little bit because I felt like I didn't want to mix political and cultural commentary so much with the book. The only reason I went that way is because, and I have a lot politically and religious, topics, faith topics, because they're all intertwined. The collision of faith and politics is a very real thing. You can never extricate politics from faith. You just can't. And if you try to keep them separate, if you try to keep discussion. I'm writing about that now on one of the papers I'm writing. There's 26, 27, 20. I don't know how many papers. Dr. Fraser did the course, wrote the course. Dr. Ronald Fraser, he's a good friend of mine, dear professor, phenomenal, at Masters. But this one is through Summit Theological Seminary. And I really, really love it. This course is super challenging, but I super love it. Super love it. I hope that you can hear me okay, by the way. Because once I start reading this, I'm going to read it all the way through. I'm not going to stop. And then I'll have just a brief, sorry about that, left that in, a brief comment that, on that, and then I'll button it up and get back to my studies, and you guys can get back to doing whatever you're doing. But I bring up sharing this because it's great to take something good in. You know what I mean? I mean, you take it in and you're like, oh, that felt good. I like that. I like how that feels. I like, that's so helpful. But if you take it in and you don't share it, I don't get any money for this. Nothing I do is monetized except for my YouTube channel, The Good Doctor and Dr. Sean Michael Greener. I think the Ninja Pastor, if you search Ninja Pastor, but also The Good Doctor on YouTube. I'm monetized there, but I don't have enough followers. You have to have I think 10,000 followers or a certain number of I don't know, subscribers rather. That's what they call them there. So like and subscribe that would help me. Anyhow, but I don't do it for that, but it would be nice if I could. That said, share this with people. And I'm also on Spreaker, so if you're a Spreaker follower, you got notified that I was live on Spreaker. Share that and click on, thank you, Bonnie. I really appreciate that. I was going to do this from my shower. Doesn't everything sound better in the shower? You're singing in the shower. Sounds better. But I figured it might complicate the broadcast, so I didn't. And most of you will probably be really glad that I didn't. You'd be like, oh, thank the Lord. That would be bad. I'd have to scrub my eyes out with lye soap. Anyway, back to our story. Share it. Share the heck out of it, because I think the world needs it. Pray for those officers. They need your prayers. Talking, typing, all of that is great, but pray for them. And remember, I did a live right before this. Cancel the cancelers. Go back and listen to that. That was a short one. Cancel that because, go back and watch that and practice that on your social media. I give you very clear instructions. I repeat them a few times, so don't feel nervous if you miss something at some point. Just get in there and get after it, because it's really, really important. I really believe it's one of the most important things you can do. People say, well, how do we win against social media? How do we win against the left? That's how you do it. Anyway, let me give you a little how I was thinking of this today. So we have, we live in a new home. We live within, I'm looking out at the water now. It's beautiful azure blue today. The sun's dancing off of it. So it's about, 300 yards maybe, I think 200-300 yards. I don't know how far it is, but it's hundreds of yards to the intercoastal waterway. And then there's a little island, and then there's the ocean. And I can see the ocean from here. There's dunes and everything, but you can see the waves and all that stuff. And when it's high tide, sometimes it's completely covered. So serene. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Don't know why I brought that up. I have no idea. Can't even remember why I brought that up. But I'm getting to see that now. This might be the reason. And I'm able to enjoy serenity from where I live. I remember why. But because I live so close to water, there's gators. There's alligators, not in that water, but over to our right or south of us, literally adjacent, there are like swampy areas and all that, and that's where the gators live. And you don't see gators very often. I'm hoping to see them more because I'm a photographer. I'm into that. But you see a lot of wildlife and all that stuff. Of course, you see snakes because snakes are right here. They're all around us. We built houses on their habitat, on all of their habitat. So we see deer and all that. And I try to get along with everything, not just the animals that are fluffy and you think are huggable, but usually they're not. But also snakes. I try, obviously, venomous snakes. I wouldn't survive a snake bite. I would never want my family or certainly my elderly puppy to get bit by a venomous snake. So I relocate those very carefully. But the other snakes I get along with fine. There are many non-venomous, completely harmless snakes that do us a great service. They keep the mouse population down. They eat other insects, and like a king snake or racer and all those, they eat the venomous snakes, and that's cool. I'm for that. I know the venomous snakes have a part to play in our ecosystem, but I don't want to die as a result of it. Anyway, if I get mauled by a bear or something like that, that's a different story. As long as I get some shots of it, and then people can develop that and put it out. Anyway, I don't want to get eaten by a bear if I can help it. So I noticed my son, Doyle, came home one day and said, Dad, there's a snake, little bitty snake under our threshold. So you step up just a tiny bit. We live on a slab, so you step up a tiny bit from where you come in to our house. There's a little alcove type of thing, get you out of the rain. And then there's a board. There's where you step, and there's a board like this that unfortunately didn't get sealed on both ends. So this little snake, little tiny sucker, He's small. His head's only, I've only seen that much of him, and it's just his head. And but I want to see the rest of him so I can really discern whether that's a venomous snake or a non-venomous. Of course, I understand Colleen is a little bit apprehensive, and I get that. A lot of people are. Snakes have a very negative connotation, but the good ones, the harmless ones, they do great things for us, and it is difficult to think about that, and she doesn't want to walk out and startle it and step on it, and then she would have a heart attack. And I get that too. Anyway, she's coming along though. But she definitely doesn't want the snake right there. And literally, he'll poke his little head out and go, and then he'll jump back in. And he's a little tiny snake. So I just want to make sure he's not venomous, because if he is venomous, I'll make a plan to relocate him. So anyway, I was thinking about that, and then I remembered this poem. And this poem is by Saint Seraphim of Serov. It is just such a fantastic poem. And this poem has resonated. My favorite poem is Desiderata. My favorite poem, absolutely, and it's been my favorite for decades. However, this one is really, really less of a poem and more of a little life advice. So I want to share it with you because looking around, everything's crazy. Now, you say, well, what's the snake have to do with it? You'll see. When I read the poem, you will see what the snake, the little bitty snake under my threshold, has to do with it. Of our new home, so don't want him in the house, but right there for me is good. Now, if he's venomous, got to get him out of there because I can't run the chance of accidentally getting bit. My dog, me, my family. I don't want, or a guest. I don't want any of that happening. I'm 99% sure that it is a non-venomous species, but from the little bit that I've seen of them. Anyhow, so here you go. Again, this was written by Saint Seraphim of Serov. Oh, that's cool. It's so funny. I'm getting ready to read about wildlife, and a bluebird just flew right in front of my window, flew right down in front of me, picked up a bug, flew toward the window, and then went up, as if to say, hey, we love this poem too. You'll see why in a second. Drink water from the spring where horses drink. The horse never drinks bad water. Lay your bed where the cat sleeps. Eat the fruit that has been touched by a worm. Boldly pick the mushroom on which the insects sit. Plant the tree where the mole digs. Build your house where the snake sits to warm itself. Dig your fountain where the birds hide from heat. Go to sleep and wake up at the same time with the birds. You will reap all of the day's golden grains. Eat more green, you will have strong legs and a resistant heart like the beings of the forest. Swim often, and you will feel on earth like the fish in the water. Look at the sky as often as possible, and your thoughts will become light and clear. Be quiet a lot. Speak little, and silence will come in your heart, and your spirit will be calm and full of peace. Now, isn't that something? Isn't that something? It's a short little poem, but it has great power. Great power if you take it in. Drink water from the spring where horses drink. The horse will never drink bad water. God created these animals sometimes smarter than we are. Lay your bed where the cat sleeps. You ever notice cat seems to never have trouble sleeping? Good afternoon, brother. Lay your bed where the cat sleeps. Cats seem like they have no problem sleeping ever. Yet we, in this modern crazy world, seem to really struggle with sleeping. Eat the fruit that's been touched by a worm. A worm won't eat bad fruit. A worm wants good fruit, and it knows which is good. Don't eat the worm, though. Boldly pick the mushroom where the insects sit. They will not sit on a bad mushroom. It's just fact. It's how God designed nature. Plant the tree where the mole digs. The soil is grand and great where the mole digs. Build your house where the snake sits to warm itself. Snakes don't want anything to do with us. Yeah, we don't want anything to do with them most of the time either. But they don't want anything to do with us. So they find a place of warmth, serenity, and security. And that's where they go. They say that when a snake chooses your home, that's a sign of great luck. Many of you would burn down the home and say, well, too bad. Too bad. Dig your fountain where the birds hide from the heat. If you want a fountain that really nourishes, look where the birds hide from the heat. Go to sleep and wake up at the same time with the birds. You will reap all of the day's golden grains. You know, there's so much truth to that. There is so much truth to that we go to sleep sometimes way too late. We stay up way too late and we get up way too early, or we get up way too late. We labor our bodies with something different than what God designed for us. The rising of the sun is when we're to rise, and the setting of the sun is when we are to sleep. Farmers do that. In a highly agrarian society, you'll find you won't really hear from farmers in the late of the night because they eat dinner as soon as they come in from the fields, and then they have a little bit of a rest and family time, and then they go to sleep because the day comes early. The work comes early. It's good for us. Eat more green. Eat more green. My last name is Greener. You will have strong legs and a resistant heart like the beings of the forest. Man, oh man, how true that is. You know, one of my favorite butters, I won't say the name because my political views put people off. I don't want to upset them. But one of my favorite butters to use is from Ireland. And it is grass-fed, organic grass-fed, cows. And, everything is organically done from the grass. And it's really, really neat. Swim often and you will feel on earth like a fish in the water. Now, I learned this in the Navy, and I learned it in some post-Navy activities that I had to, utilize the water, both in the Navy and after. And in the water, we are reminded that we are visitors, right? We weren't built to be there. And so when you spend some time in the water, significant time in the water, you come to realize very quickly that God has given us a mastery over the land. And so that helps us to feel like the fish feels in the water. Look at the sky as often as possible and your thoughts will become light and clear. You know, what's funny is people have always referred to me as a sky gazer. I'm a sky guy because I love looking up at the sky. I love it. I just enjoy the clouds, and I enjoy looking at the glint of the sun off of things, even storm clouds I love to see. And so clouds, my art partner, my photography partner, Bonnie, she is always looking at the sky. She's always looking at storms and pray for them. There's a fire 3 miles from their house, the Bighorn Fire. It's humongous in Arizona. And pray for those people whose houses are in the path. Now, before you say, what's global warming? It was a strike of lightning. It was a strike of lightning, and it struck, and it's very dry there. It's single-digit humidity, and it went up. And it happens, and it happens a lot. And so I would say most likely part of God's plan. Anyhow, look at the sky. Take some time to look up. It'll lighten your heart. Your thoughts will lighten up. Be quiet a lot. Speak a little. And silence will come into your heart. And your spirit will be calm and full of peace. Wow. There's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of beauty in that. There's a lot of wisdom in that. Be quiet a lot. Speak little. And silence will come into your heart. And your spirit will be calm and full of peace. I don't know how many of you know somebody like that they don't say much, but boy, when they open their mouths, you perk up and you go, ooh, wow, that was worth hearing. That was worth hearing. I listened to, I've been following Jim Rohn for decades, literally back to, my late teens and early 20s, all the way up to now. And he's going to his reward. He's in heaven. But what a great, great man. Helped change a lot of lives. And Zig Ziglar, God bless him, he's home in heaven. And him as well, and Tony Robbins. Now, a lot of you guys you've heard of Tony Robbins, and sometimes people will say things about him that aren't true. They just aren't true. They make an assumption and they say, well, he's a this, he's a humanist, he's a this, he's a that, he's a, New Age and all that. You'll say that until you sit around a fire, which I've had the privilege of doing, and listen to that man give his tear-streaming testimony of his faith in Christ and how he came to Christ and what Jesus means to him every day. And you'll learn very quickly that you're completely wrong. People will forward things and say things that just simply aren't true. They just aren't true. But they seem true, and they kind of want them to be true, and they kind of get leaning a direction, so they have a confirmation bias. That's when you find something that is in alignment with what you believe, what you feel, and so sometimes you'll click on that thing and forward it without checking, and that confirms your bias, and most often it's incorrect. Well, I've met the man. I've met Tony Robbins. He's extraordinary. He's changed millions of lives. He has saved millions of lives. And not for nothing, he has fed millions of people. I bring Tony Robbins up because a lot of times people will, they'll bring this poem. That sounds like something Tony Robbins would say. Well, yeah, it does sound like something Tony Robbins would say. There's another person that I love to read his work, and it is Avraham Heschel, phenomenal philosopher and rabbi, and he said something that has stuck with me that I heard first in seminary. Dr. Skip Moen was my professor for this class, and he said, "Something sacred hangs in the balance of every moment." I'll say that again. Something sacred hangs in the balance of every moment. By the way, I'll post this poem on the comments so you'll be able to copy and paste it. Some of you would probably like to have that. So I'll do that for you. Something sacred hangs in the balance of every moment. I thought that in the car crash after I had come back to life after dying. That's what occurred to me. That's what popped into my head. And then I prayed 3 prayers. And so powerful words make a tremendous impact on our lives. Sometimes the words need to be harsh. Yeshua spoke very harsh words sometimes. People love to characterize him as this fluffy white guy, light-skinned with a British accent and lots of hair product in and like a fan blowing his hair. That's, first of all, it's nothing at all what we know him by historical record to be. But we also know that he wasn't always uttering fluffy words. Sometimes he had to speak the harsh things. But sometimes he spoke things, most often he spoke things that were game changers, life changers. I believe one of the things about this poem is it causes us to pause a moment. Causes us to pause a moment in the compelling moments of time, the compelling moments in history. We're living them right now. There's a whole section of people in this world. They're so misguided and so poisoned by hate and destructiveness in their soul. They don't believe in God, and they don't believe in the good of God and what he is and has been in the world. And so they're atheists. They're against God, and they're against anyone that believes in God or has faith in God. They miss out because we have the opportunity to look at all this crazy business that's going on and knowing how the book ends. Right? I wrote a book. I wrote 2 books. I wrote actually 3 books. And I know how they end because I wrote them. Well, he wrote the book of history, and he knows the ending. I will remind you, I'm going to post this poem. I will remind you that something sacred hangs in the balance of every moment. The key is, ask yourself, are you living every moment? Don't forget to share this. Somebody can benefit from this today. I just know they can.
Thank you for joining Dr. Sean today. Please follow Dr. Sean at www.drseangreener.com and on social media at facebook.com/smgreener, Twitter at The Ninja Pastor, and on Instagram at The Ninja Pastor. If you would like to support Dr. Sean's ministry and send Bibles around the world, don't forget to hit the donate page on drseangreener.com or go to paypal.me/Dr. Sean Greener to invest in spreading the Word of God to the world. And please download our free apps to listen to our Spreaker radio show. Thank you again for listening, and don't forget to share.